Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of SBJ Live. I'm Dan Kaufman with Sports Business Journal. This is our NHL season preview. Thank you for being here. I will flip it to our moderator and panelists in just a moment. But as I always do on episodes of SBJ Live, I want to give you guys a few logistical instructions. I apologize to those of you who have done this many times that I have to do this again. But for those of you who are new, I think it's very important to make sure we get the most out of this experience. So here are the two things that I'm going to ask of you, the audience, as you're joining us here. One, in the chat bubble on the right-hand side of your screen, I'd love it if you introduce yourself there. Tell us who you are, where you're coming from. And then if you see people who you know in the chat, feel free to chat with them as well. We love that kind of interaction here at SBJ Live. So go ahead and do that whenever you get a chance as you're trickling in here. And then right next to the chat bubble, there is a questions bubble. We want your questions. Alex has a ton of great questions for our panelists here, but we want audience questions. And don't wait till the end to send your audience questions in. We don't have a designated Q&A period at the end. We want to weave those questions in throughout. And in fact, there's an upvote feature that you can use with the questions. So get your questions in early. Maybe you get a lot of upvotes from the other audience members, and we'll make sure that we get to those questions that get the most votes. Okay, that's it. It's pretty simple. We'll go for about 45 minutes. If we've got a ton of questions and we're just rolling along, we'll go a little bit longer, maybe about an hour. But thank you for being here. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the NHL season preview episode of SBJ Live. We've got Jim Van Stone. He's the president of business operations and chief commercial officer at Monumental Sports and Entertainment. And Kyle McMahon. He's the senior vice president of global business at the National Hockey League. And moderating everything is Sports Business Journal's Alex Silverman. Alex, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for facilitating. Really excited to have two awesome guests here, in Kyle and Jim. Yeah, thanks so much to both of you for being here.
Cool. Thanks, Alex.
So let's start big picture here. Just we'll start with you, Kyle. Just what's one thing on the ice and one thing off the ice that you're excited for this season?
I mean, it's always hard to label one, and this is absolutely not to suck up to Jim, who's on the call as well. But this is going to be a great season. It's probably going to take more than a season, but to continuing to watch Ovi skate towards a record that nobody thought was ever possible to be broken, the ultimate NHL goal scorer. It's just any night of the year. It just makes it an exciting game. So super excited there. I think if you wanted to talk about on the ice and off the ice, these balance points, it's for us getting out to Seattle this year. First time we're going to do a big event with the Discover NHL Winter Classic with the Kraken hosting. So a really big one. And then, of course, we've got our 20th anniversary game sort of kicking off the season up in Edmonton at the site of the very first ever outdoor game. So two pieces that are really a big part of our Jewel event schedule. That's going to be a big driver of our commercial revenue, but really exciting from a hockey fan standpoint as well.
Yeah, while we're on that, those Jewel events, we outlined in our season preview issue of SBJ, and just a little plug if you haven't checked it out yet. This week's issue has I think 6 pages of NHL preview content, some teams to watch this year, and feature on the Golden Knights. So check that out. But we also outline in there this year's event schedule, and it's just so robust this year, Kyle. What sort of went into such a big slate of events this year, and what should we kind of be looking forward to?
Yeah, look, I think this is the new normal for us, and we've had a few years where we weren't able to do everything we would have liked to do just based on where the world was at a time. But getting back to a true full slate, and we can go back even to things we've already done. I know the season launches on Tuesday. But really, we've already been in full swing. We've done 2 Craft Hockeyville events over the last week. Up in Canada, we've had a Global Series event out in Australia. We'll be starting the season, as I mentioned, in Edmonton with the Tim Hortons NHL Heritage Classic. Then moving back to Sweden for Global Series games in November. And then it's our slate, that sort of mid-season run of events. And this year, supersized in a lot of ways. So starting with Seattle with the Discover NHL Winter Classic on New Year's Day, leading into All-Star Weekend in Toronto. We'll talk about this a little later. I think the first time we've had an All-Star event in Toronto in 24 years. One that's really doing well for us on a commercial level. but a lot of excitement to bring it back to Canada and to the sort of the de facto home of hockey in a lot of circles. And then ending with 2 massive events in New York City at MetLife with the Navy Federal Stadium Series. So a big slate, and that's before we've even got to the playoffs, the draft and awards. So a huge year for us. But we'll replace that and go next year with a very similar schedule as well. So this is really how we want to operate on a national level, is to create these moments of inflection that can harness and focus all hockey attention on some singular events and track us through. It's got tremendous rights holder support with ESPN and Turner and Sportsnet in Canada, and a huge commercial interest. So really, really excited about the season ahead.
Awesome. Jim, let's kick it over to you. One thing on the ice and one thing off the ice that you're looking forward to this year.
Well, I will say selfishly, I love Kyle's start. The Great Chase, I think, is going to be epic over the next 3 years. So hopefully Ovi, who is at 822 right now, makes a major dent this season into the Great One's number of 894. And, hopefully next year we have the opportunity to see him surpass that. And then maybe the year after we see a new plateau set. So I think that's really a unique opportunity for us in Washington, D.C., but I think collectively from a league, both nationally and globally from that standpoint. I mean, Alex has been an amazing player, probably our best player on the ice and off the ice. And you know what? He is certainly a generational talent. I think one of the things I'm excited about, though, is, really the continued growth of the sport with some of these young players coming in. I think the Connor phenomena in Chicago is going to be one to watch. It seems like he's off to a really great start in his preseason and early part of his career. So I think that's tremendous. But I think one of the things that really sets the NHL apart from, a lot of the other leagues out there is they are always thinking unique and differently. I think this year, starting off the preseason with the global games in Australia, I mean, it is truly a global sport. And, I know the Sweden games are coming up, so we're excited about that. But Kyle said it best. I mean, the event schedule on the NHL side, I think, is second to none, and they do a wonderful job of creating marquee events. So, I'm really looking forward to a lot of those, opportunities from that standpoint. I think, the other piece is that all of us are being pushed from a local level to really make sure that the fan experience is state of the art. And, I think a lot of us are really heavily focused on that, whether it's building developments or even, changing the fan experience inside your game during, a live event. So I think we're all focused on that end, and there's a lot of really best practices out there. And I think we're all in the early part of seeing, some of those things come to life.
Yeah, Jim, we were talking a little bit just before we jumped on live here about that fan experience. And there in DC, you guys have made some serious investments in new infrastructure over the last few years with the Caesar Sportsbook and the new District E. Can you tell us a little bit about, how you guys plan to kind of incorporate those into the fan experience now that they're both up and running?
Yeah, you know what? I think for all of us, I mean, we've got incredible buildings. It's a great live game day experience inside the arena. But, I think all of us are really trying to get people to come early. I mean, we want to make it an all-day event or as long as we possibly can. So, a couple years ago, we were fortunate with the overturn of PASPA to create the first retail sportsbook at Capital One Arena with our great partnership with Caesars. It's about 30,000 square feet. It's become a great pregame destination. And this year, we're going to be launching our brand new District D, which is connected on the other side of the building. And it's basically an event center, which we're actually going to be hosting pregame block parties to get fans down. It'll be a great fan engagement opportunity. We'll do live events, live music in that place. We'll also do, a lot of our alumni and some pregame, entertainment activities. So I think our whole process for, the fans that are coming to games in Washington, D.C. is to get here early, enjoy a great game, participate, and then hopefully we get these folks to stay a little bit later. But I think really, capturing that fan experience from the time they arrive to the time they leave and go back home is really important for us. So I think over the years, we've always done a, pretty aggressive effort of inside the arena, transforming the experience. A couple years ago, we did a major renovation in terms of, all brand new LED signage that allowed the Capital One Arena to feel like the Capitals owned it for that particular game. So, pouring a lot of money and a lot of investment into the game day fan experience is something that we think is going to be important. And, one of the things that we've always through our research seen is that if people have a great experience, the likelihood for them to come back, whether it's on the retention side with season tickets or even on the new business side, is much higher if it is, a very, fan-centric, enjoyable atmosphere in the building itself.
No, absolutely. And, you alluded to, ticket sales and retention there. What are some of the, overall trends you're seeing in those, commercial metrics in terms of ticket sales and on the sponsorship front?
So at least on the ticket sales standpoint, I think our premium focus still is at the top barometer. People are really interested in a premium experience. I do think, we've put a lot of focus on that. One of the things that we should have ready for this December is a brand new club and lounge that we did in partnership with Jose Andres. So really having a complimentary food experience to go along with the ability to, experience all the great live events. That space is available for up to 300 guests. We've actually packaged in some great center ice seats that are part of the overall experience. So, premium is still, at the top of our list and making sure that we maximize that. But I do think we're also doing a lot of focus on, having a variety of different options for all guests. And I think even people that sit in the upper level, still really want a premium experience. So expanding social spaces has been, a priority for us, but we want to give, our fans a good opportunity, not only to enjoy an incredible game, and there's nothing better than a live NHL game, but also have the social opportunities to really get to know each other and enjoy the overall experience. So I think we're putting a ton of focus on, enhancing the building to make it state of the art and make it as flexible as it needs to be for our fans and partners. On the partnership side, I have to give Kyle and the team at the NHL a lot of credit. Over the last couple of years, the league has really pushed to create opportunities for, teams to generate commercial revenues, whether it's the uniform entitlements with the helmet or the jersey. Certainly over the last year, the DED, I think, which has been absolutely phenomenal. And then, even the in-ice virtual slot signage, I think has been great. So the league has always pushed the envelope in terms of, affording teams the opportunity to really diversify the offerings. And, I think a lot of us are also putting a lot of focus these days, Alex, on content. Being able to tell the story of the athletes on the ice, but also off the ice, I think is tremendous value. And a lot of our partners want to be, tied into that unique content that we're creating.
Yeah, you mentioned DEDs, and that was obviously such a huge development in the sport last year. That technology, has really changed the way that Dasherboard advertising is been sold. What were sort of your big takeaways from the first year of that, and any learnings that you're going to kind of apply going forward in year two?
Yeah, I think for us, what we loved about the DED, and the league did an incredible job. I think they sliced up really the inventory for you to be able to do it in a variety of different ways. So, from at least my standpoint, the ability to do a full takeover, I thought was great. The ability to, split it into thirds if you wanted to. I think the opportunity to have it look, very similar to, the traditional Dasherboards, I think was phenomenal on that front. I think, the other piece is the way we were able to sell it, both home and away and national, I think really created great opportunities. So the flexibility of this allowed us really to curate our message for our partners to what they were looking to, really accomplish in some of their goals and objectives. So I think the flexibility, from that standpoint was great. For us in DC, we decided to do the full takeover. It seemed to work really well for us. And, I think from, a learning process for us, now we have really a good case study of partner case studies of what's worked effectively, whether it's from the content itself, whether it's from, the way the brand's represented. So, we've tried to spend the off season meeting with a lot of our partners to show them really the best case, sampling of our work that was done, over the course of all of our partners. So I think we've really made some good inroads on it. And, I do think the long-term vision of, creating more value and more revenue potential, I think is unlimited, when it comes to the DED. So I think it's a great accomplishment from the league. And, I know Keith and the team really put a lot of work on it, over the last 5 or 6 years, but I think it's a game changer, for us from a revenue development standpoint.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there too, Alex, and apologize for having a couple technical issues, like getting booted out a couple times, but I caught the end of what Jim was saying, and I think he nailed, from our standpoint, the value from on a local level is giving our clubs who are the best at selling their markets the ability to truly sell their market more of the time. So whether you're on the road in a regional game or at home, that audience on your network is there for you, and being able to bring brands that exposure across the full slate of games is a game changer. On a national level, it's really being able to unlock the geographies that have been limited. So we've had 40 years of fixed signage where everyone's been selling, one of 24 essentially equal positions, some of them a little more valuable based on being in the corner and the attack zone versus the neutral zone, but largely, this a similar asset, and being able, as Jim mentions, to be able to slice and dice and build up on rotations and not have that wallpaper effect that comes in over time in a sporting event with fixed signage that's static throughout the game, really creates value and allows us to unlock something that we haven't had before. And when I look at what we're able to do on a global level now with unique feeds going into different countries around the world, specifically in Canada, where we've had 7 teams for years, but have never really been able to bring our biggest brand partners on a national level into the Stanley Cup playoffs. 2/3 of Canadians tune in to some of the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sportsnet, and we were feeding them US-only partners, Geico, Mass Mutual, Discover, brands that don't need exposure in the country. And by taking DED and allowing us to give that exposure and that value in an amplified way, because it's now not just a logo exposure, it's actually a marketing vehicle for those brands on ESPN and Turner, we're unlocking value that we've never had for Scotiabank, Tim Hortons, Canadian Tire, these brands that want to be a part of the hockey conversation and be authentically embedded in the sport, but have never been able to because of the group. So I think DED on a first-year basis already delivered massive amounts of league-wide revenue, and that's in a conversion year. So I think what we're seeing now as clubs get into it and as the league starts to really look at renewals that are coming in and being able to right-size the amount of inventory that brands need is going to allow us to continue to evolve how we go to market and how we show up inside some of the most valuable content on television, live sports.
And I think, just adding into that, Kyle, I think we're only on the forefront of this. I mean, I cannot wait to the opportunity where the game day integration piece is a part of it. So if there's a goal moment and Capital One owns the goals inside our arena, to be able to transition that and have it on the DEDs as that goal moment, I think is incredible. Penalty kills are another great opportunity. So the integration of that, I think we're on the early stages of that, but the potential of that to me is unlimited. And I mean, when you're selling a partner an in-game feature that is now delivered on, households, we have almost 3.2 million households in the greater Washington region, but be able to have that moment transitioned on the broadcast side of it, I think is really unique. And the value proposition of that is just going to escalate really, really high.
Yeah, Jim is absolutely right. This is, the first step of what will be a marathon as we really unlock the true potential of this. And even on that, where we want to get to, Jim had already alluded to the idea of being able to tie it into statistical moments in the game that can't be contemplated, that just have to happen. Getting there is another evolution. But this year, even on its own, we'll be trialing on the national level some production enhancements. So we've got a commercial format that's going to change or stay roughly the same to what we saw last year. Very minor tweaks to how we'll see DED presented from a commercial standpoint, but now adding in-game matchups, wins, so team wins, overtime, shootouts, and being able to use the platform in a production-friendly opportunity. And that's just the next step where we ultimately want to get to power plays, penalty kills, the actual events that happen in the game that need to be done and delivered very tightly. That's what we ultimately want to go. But another step forward on a product that we hope is going to be fueling the business for the next 40 years, as we had fixed boards before for the past 40 years. So it's an exciting moment.
Yeah, and I think one of the big, with every sports property, especially the big ones, the ones that are really at a mature state here in North America, there's a big focus on international for revenue growth. I mean, how much has this technology enabled you to grow revenue on the international front, Kyle?
Well, it's still early days, right? Last year we had one global feed. We will be rolling out additional feeds this upcoming season. So we're really going to start to see the first wave of unique brands and unique regions. But like I said, this is a marathon. We're not looking to accomplish and build everything overnight. It's going to be a long haul, and part of it is the work we're doing to get our teams over to play games in the markets, build fan experiences. Broadcast is a big part of that, putting the games on more accessible channels. DVD, it's a big part of that. From a sports betting standpoint, it's already being widely used. We're now in the process of taking those and then building into more traditional commercial relationships. So DED will be a big part of that. So it's starting, but I wouldn't say we're anywhere near done.
Gotcha. While we're on the subject of international, we do have a question from the audience. Admittedly, I'm not super knowledgeable on hypersonic travel, but the question asks, with hypersonic travel being a reality in the next few years, what might that do to open up international possibilities for teams or the league? I don't know how well versed you guys are in hypersonic travel specifically, but maybe we can just broaden it a little bit to, what might be sort of the next frontier for the league, Kyle, when it comes to international.
Look, I certainly can't speak to what we will do in the future, but I think if you look across all the leagues, playing games and getting the teams into markets outside North America is the first stage in how you drive global fandom. I think we've been doing it for years. We'll continue to sort of press in, and I think if we can find a way to get teams there and back more quickly, where it actually feels similar to a cross-continent road trip, then it opens up opportunities to do more games across the season and really schedule out. But what you're seeing right now with Australia and Sweden, where we want to go and get into some of the bigger commercial markets, as we've done in the past with games in Germany and Czech Republic and others, there's a lot of hockey interest in Europe, which is really the first market that we need to really put a foothold around. We've got so many of our players coming from there. They are brand name celebrity stars. We need to use that and continue to push out and grow that hockey fandom means NHL fandom at the professional level. And so you'll continue to see that push, and as we get better ways to get our teams over and back, it will make it easier to do more. But the plan right now is not just live game. It is centered around the live game, but then it's all of the arms and shoulders that we can add to it to make an experience and to make it easier to be a fan in a market where you're traditionally watching games live in the wee hours of the morning or in condensed replays early in the day. So it's about creating access, but also about creating a way for them to share in that live experience.
Kyle, it sounds like an incredible sponsorship opportunity. If you can find that airline that could do the supersonic travel, I mean, you know what? It sounds like there could be a lot of money to be made in sponsorship dollars and revenue from that standpoint.
It is. It's about time.
What's that?
It's about time. We lost the Concorde years ago, and we went backwards. We've got to find a way to get there faster.
So you know what, Alex? Just adding on to Kyle, and I think the league has done an incredible job of really highlighting and targeting the global market and the global audience. I think as teams, though, we have players that represent our brands that are from all over the globe, too. So I think we also have to help from a league perspective on the local level of introducing our brands to, some of those unique marketplaces, far away, whether it's doing, content in that language, that we're creating, whether it's creating social media platforms to be able to spread, that message to some of the players who might be from far away lands. I think a lot of us do, celebratory nights with a variety of different cultural groups. I mean, I think we can help the league in terms of what some of those efforts are on the local level. And I look at Washington, D.C. I mean, we have 190 embassies here. 1 in 5 people are foreign born. There is a unique global audience of hockey fans that live in our market that we can help the league in terms of, really exposing the game to a greater audience. And, I do know Kyle and the team do an incredible job of broadcast. I mean, Kyle, it's probably well over 150 countries around the world, I think, are actually probably, receiving an NHL broadcast. So I do think it is a growing opportunity collectively.
Yeah, it's absolutely the numbers. If it's not that, it's very close, Jim. And certainly the push as those deals are renewed is to get those into more free to air or early bundled rather than the premium tier places that they sometimes get to. And that's just adding access, right? It's also the 9 languages that we offer NHL.com content in, that's giving fans a way to connect with the sport and their favorite player in their language.
Awesome. And thanks to Lawrence Kaiser for out in Las Vegas for that question. Good message from him in the chat. I will check out that article from John Wall Street about this this hypersonic travel. And, I'd obviously think that when, you have the league going to places like Australia, anything that can expedite that, what is currently probably a 15+ hour flight would be, super helpful in terms of spreading the brand. Let's move to another question or another topic brought up in the chat by Matt Hogan, and I think we'll get to his specific question in a second. But just on the RSN front, I know, Jim, the Capitals have taken or Monumental Sports in general has taken a very unique approach to the RSN landscape, which is something that every team in the league is sort of adapting to right now. With the purchase of your regional sports network, NBC Sports Washington, and rebranding it as Monumental Sports Network. Can you tell us what we can expect now that rebrand is complete, and it's going to be the first season now that's transitioned? So what can we expect there?
Yeah, it's an exciting time for us. I mean, we really kind of rebranded our network from NBC Sports Washington to Monumental Sports Network within the last several months. We are in the process of building out a brand new $40 million broadcast studio, which is connected to Capital One Arena. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be launching a new streaming service from our standpoint. So, for us, we believe that the rights of our broadcast opportunity is gold. And that was why we were really so focused on, acquiring the rights back, from Comcast, which we were partners with for a long, long time, and good partners. But, we felt for us, by having the media side of it, it really was a 360 solution for a lot of our partners and fans to be able to tell our story a little bit. So not only do we own the sports entertainment piece of it, we own the venues, now we own the media side. So I think it really helps us amplify the positioning of our properties and brands in the local community. And, we're approaching, I would say the game day experience on the broadcast side, like you would see college game day. I mean, we're talking about 4 or 5 hours of programming leading into a, Capitals or Wizards game in the evening. I mean, we're talking about, some of the all-time great shows and great games and doing a replay of those. We're talking team magazine shows. We're leading it into a sports betting, show that we have. And then certainly beginning our pregame shows, the actual game itself and a post-game show. So for us to be able to amplify and control the message, we just think it is really a game changer. And, we do know the marketplace out there. I mean, we're all, up to speed in terms of some of the challenges with Diamond in some local markets. But for us, the value of that content, we think is imperative for us to continue to grow our brand itself. And, in Washington, D.C., we have over 3 million plus households that actually, have our broadcast opportunities. And, we know the market's changing a little bit, and that's why we're putting into, effect some heavy focus on, creating a streaming platform. I mean, we want to be able to, have people digest the content in the way they want to do it. So we'll be introducing a lot of alternative feeds, that are part of that overall experience. I mean, the ability to, hyper focus maybe on your favorite player could be one of those feeds. And certainly I think the goal record that Ovi's going for, I think there'll be a lot of demand on that end. But for our partners too, I think it's been a great lift from an advertising standpoint, because, they basically now they're able to distribute their message, not only on our sports and entertainment in venue piece, certainly social media, but now it's part of the broadcast side. So we're looking at a lot more, opportunities to really have that, message integrated completely in terms of the overall delivery of our Capitals brands or Wizards brand. So, for us, I mean, this has been, I would say a no-brainer. And the fact that, having all that, full capabilities, we think is really something that's, truly monumental for us, and something that's going to be really valuable for the fan engagement piece of our business.
Yeah, Jim, how are you guys approaching direct to consumer with the, with Monumental Sports Network? what sort of, how do you guys look at that opportunity, and do you anticipate at some point, making Capitals and Wizards games available outside of the cable bundle?
I don't think so. I mean, you know what? I mean, we still believe in the cable model. I mean, it's still really, really important, from that standpoint. Our distributors or customers will be able to authenticate on our streaming platform, and then we'll be able to sell those people that don't have cable, a direct-to-consumer package from that standpoint. So we see these as being 1 + 1 = 3, from that standpoint. And the more people that we can, offer the opportunity to consume our content, we think the better off we'll be completely from that standpoint. So I don't think by any stretch the, cable model is broken. I think, it's just evolving right now. And I think we really, all collectively need to work together from that standpoint. But, I do think, all of our great, distributors that we have, their customers will be able to authenticate and watch a great streaming experience, on our platform. So we think it's, a really unique and, very valuable opportunity from that standpoint. And it allows us to address maybe those, cord nevers or cord cutters, with our own platform, for them to be able to, take in all of our Capitals and Wizards programming.
Gotcha. So just to clarify, will the games won't be direct to consumer, or won't be available to non-cable subscribers at this point, but like some ancillary content will be? Or
no, the games will be. I mean,
okay.
When we launch our direct-to-consumer, yeah. I mean, but cable subscribers will be able to authenticate, on our streaming platform to be able to watch those games. But yes, people that don't have cable, will be able to offer an opportunity on our direct-to-consumer platform.
Gotcha. Okay. Kyle, Jim alluded to the situation with the Diamond Sports Network. And, I talked to the commissioner about this in the season preview, so I would definitely direct people to that. But would love to hear, Kyle, sort of what's the league's approach to local broadcast right now? And, what's sort of your thoughts on how that might look in the future?
Well, I think right now we just have to sort of hold and allow the bankruptcy to go through. We've got to understand what we're all dealing with. I can say that we will be prepared and we'll have contingency plans in place. There's a massive workforce, both at the league level and through third parties, that are going to ensure that any game that a fan can access, the games that they need to access, should there be an event where we don't have a regional broadcast. But for now, I think we need to hold and see how things play out. We expect there to be some updates over the next little while, and we'll roll with whatever the outcome is. We just don't want to get involved in a dispute that's happening between a company and a property that's not specifically us. So we're ready if we need to, but we're going to sit back and let it play out.
Gotcha. Matt Hogan in the audience specifically asked about alternate, producing engaging content despite the uncertainty of the RSNs. He alludes to alternate telecasts and betcasts. I know, Kyle, the NHL has been kind of at the forefront of the, alternate telecasts aimed specifically at younger audiences with Big City Greens last year. What's your thought on opportunities in that alternate telecast space, and any hints at what might be next for you guys?
Look, we think it was a massive success. I think Disney agrees. I think we're hoping to look and do more of that, and that's just a great evolution of what the work that we've done in technology around our NHL Edge product, the puck and player tracking, how you're seeing sort of tangible outcomes from that data and using that to actually engage fans, and tying it to a massive hit that Disney Plus or Disney Junior has on Big City Greens. Was the first evolution of it. So hopefully we see more of that. I think the work that they're doing with NHL on Roblox as well is another great example of products that are coming to life and experiences that are coming to life as a result of technology. But alternate broadcasts are something that we want to explore from a national level. That's really through the national rights holders. We are starting to see, we also do have, through a Sport Reddit relationship, some watch and bet products that are pushing out into regions. And I think we're sitting at the table with ESPN, Turner, and Sportsnet in Canada to work through different ways that they can bring the game together. I think there's great success points of alternate casts, as we just watched last night with the Giants game at MetLife, and seeing how ESPN's done a secondary telecast. I think there's more that can be done. Certainly, though, the puck and player data was one through Big City Greens that was just shockingly, incredibly engaging. When you heard about it, you got excited, but to actually see what they were able to accomplish with that, and then the feedback that came through so vocally loud from ardent hockey writers and supporters, to see it through their kids' eyes as they watched, but just seeing the social media reaction as people were finally watching a sport in a way that they hadn't imagined possible. It was really, really compelling. And like we talked about with DED, that was evolution 1.0. There's so much more that can be done, and so much more that will be done. So I think from an innovation standpoint, I think we're just getting started. And the group here that's focused on that daily is coming up with net new ways to use technology in a way that can deepen fan engagement and unlock net new fans.
Yeah, Jim, I'd love to hear from you on this. I know that Monumental's kind of been, really progressive in how it's, looked at alternate telecasts and betcasts and that sort of thing. So can you tell us maybe a little bit about what you guys have done, and then, how you guys are sort of trying to evolve in that space?
Well, I feel lucky. We participated in the Big City Greens game against the Rangers that Kyle was referring to. So, I think we are committed to looking at as many opportunities to really grow the game and hopefully introduce it to new audiences. And I think that's what Big City Greens did last year. I mean, hopefully capturing that younger audience that really, is interested in learning the game of hockey and growing it. I mean, the league does an incredible job of, putting so much focus into learn to play programs. I mean, so I think ways of doing this to engage a different audience is absolutely fabulous. I mean, I look at ways, one of the big platforms that we have this year is really growing the female audience and the all cats, all her platform. So within an alternative broadcast, can we do a female broadcast opportunity that's on a consistent level? I think, growing the game globally, what that does, and provides from an opportunity. I think, we do believe the betting piece is a great fan engagement from that standpoint. So, but for us, and I think the focus that we have is really, going to where our consumers are going to be. And I think that's what, provides a great opportunity by having all these, alternative broadcast opportunities. So, we've got some things that we have in the plans. I think as we launch, our platform, I think we'll be unveiling some of those things. But, I think innovation is key to growing the game overall. And, I think the NHL has done a great job on that end. And we continue to, put a big focus on that end. We actually launched last week an original content show with Rachel Nichols, Hometown with Rachel Nichols, that's being broadcasted on our MSN network. And, one of the things that Zach and Ted, that were part of that little piece with Rachel, talked about was, the popularity of the Manning cast. And, I think we're looking at a Leonsis cast here in DC. So we'll see what happens with Zach and Ted on that front. But, I think just opening up different angles, to help us really continue to grow the game is important. And, I think it also probably provides, from a commercial standpoint, more opportunities to help grow your commercial revenues by having a lot of diversity in what the packaging and offering could be.
Yeah, I can assure you, Jim, the Leonsis cast would be a big hit here in the SBJ newsroom. And I'm sure fans in DC would love that as well. So would love to see it come to fruition. Steve McAllister from Gaming News Canada, you guys touched on betting a little bit, and I think, Kyle, you mentioned some new opportunities when it comes to watch and bet. He asked specifically, will partnerships with sportsbooks and data providers continue to deliver new experiences for fans and bettors this season? So, Kyle, what can we expect to see maybe at the league level on that front?
Look, I mean, we're going to continue to work with Sportradar, who's building out a lot of the back end work to all sports books globally. I think in Canada, obviously, Steve's familiar. There's been some updated regulations that we're all facing, at least in Ontario, as we're looking at other markets potentially to more broadly legalize. But for right now, I think that on a marketing level, things are changing a little bit. It's a bit of an evolving model right now, but we're excited. We've got a number of partners in Canada that are with us that we continue to work against. From a product standpoint and a capability standpoint, it will absolutely continue to evolve. I'm not here today to talk about and break any net new news that would come from a sports betting product this upcoming season. But this is a space that is going to continue to evolve, and I think one that, more broadly than just on the bet itself, in how it goes to market, is going to continue to evolve as there becomes sort of a groundswell of excitement, and then maybe a bit of a retrenchment as they see how it's come to market and been commercialized. So we're working with that. I think we know we have a big seat at the table in Canada as one of the larger properties, and we owe it to the industry, and we owe it to our fans to make sure that we're operating with as much integrity as everyone expects us to, and to ensure that we're not taking a category and overdoing it to a point that's hurtful and harmful to the overall fan experience. So we're watching, and we're listening to the regulators, we're listening to our partners, and we're listening to fans, and we want to find the right balance moving forward.
Yeah, Jim, would love to hear, at the team level, you guys obviously have a very unique platform with the Caesars Sportsbook there. How are you guys approaching the betting space?
So, it's amazing when you have a new category like this, and PASPA was only a couple years old. I mean, I think we're onto the right piece in the fact that people are asking for more and more and more. So, I think we have to probably take a step back sometimes and celebrate the successes that we've had a little bit, with certainly an eye for the future. But I mean, the demand and the engagement opportunity, I think has been game changing, both from a team standpoint, a league standpoint, and really, the fan piece of it. I think for us, certainly in our buildings, I mean, connectivity, is absolutely critical, especially if we're talking about anything when it comes to, in-game betting opportunities. So I think making sure that our, buildings are really optimized for the best amount of connectivity is going to be critical. I am a firm believer, and I hope it happens in, every other U.S. sports arena, that, a retail sports book is part of the overall DNA, because I do think it makes our buildings come alive 365 days a year. And not only we're just NBA basketball or NHL hockey buildings, now we are all sports buildings. So, from that standpoint, I think it really helps, quite a bit. I think the one thing that we definitely need to continue to be focused on, and here in DC, we've got a great partnership with the American Gaming Association, and also Caesars is a priority for them, is responsible gaming and educating, the marketplace, because things have happened so quickly that I think, we owe it to the fans to make sure that, we're educating in the best steps that we can. So, I love the opportunities of what, in-game betting is going to be. I think there's still a little ways away from that standpoint. And I think Kyle's right. I mean, we've known the folks at Sport Radar for a long, long time. I think, working with organizations like that will put us in a much better situation. But, for us, I mean, I will say Caesars Sportsbook at Capital One Arena has really transformed the game day experience for our guests coming into the buildings. And, I give credit to both the NBA and the NHL for really leading the charge. Both of them, for us here in Washington, D.C., we're incredible partners, in terms of going through the approval and evaluation process. But I still think we're just on the early stages of this, of what it's going to be. And, I think it's really in a good path and, really good direction as we move forward.
Kyle, we got a question from Howard Broadwin out in LA. He asks, are there any new activations or initiatives planned around the league's charitable programs, such as Hockey is for Everyone, Hockey Fights Cancer, and NHL Green? I know there are a couple of big anniversaries for your CSR initiatives this year. What can we expect on those fronts?
There's one that I'm not allowed to share yet, but hold for hopefully a big announcement in the coming month. And no, I think we continue to use NHL Green as our umbrella to talk about the sustainability programs that we and our clubs are working with. We're infusing that not as a title or an anchor level, but into partnerships as we move forward, especially as we look at legacy initiatives that we're leaving behind in markets where we go through. We continue on community events through Hockey Fights Cancer from a licensing level and others, but look to do more with all of those. And it's still just an evolution, but I think the big story, the hook that I think Howard's looking for, I'm not ready to say that we're gonna announce anything today, but I would say it would not be out of the question to imagine seeing that in the coming season.
Awesome, and in the interest of equal time, Jim, would love to hear about anything in the community that that stands out for what Monumental's planning this season.
Yeah, I think we are really just trying to engage, every diverse audience, that we possibly can. So I mentioned earlier the All Cats, All Her platform. I think, that really is something in growing the female connectivity of the game is important for us. And, we are approaching, almost half of our buyers, on the ticketing side are female buyers, or they're definitely without a doubt key decision makers, in a family's purchasing habit. So doing more content to grow the female fan base, we think is absolutely incredible. And, we're putting a lot of focus on that. The Black community is another one for us. We had this summer, we launched our Capitals Rising Star Academy, which was really to educate players of color to, understanding the game and developing their skill set, and also serving as a mentorship program. So I think really broadening a lot of the communities I think is a critical and important part of us. We are also launching in the early part of the season a Hispanic platform from that standpoint. So I think trying to expose as many people as we can to the game is really critical and important. It's a responsibility of us as the local teams to really make sure that we're well represented in our community. So I think there's a lot more, certainly focus on the diversity and inclusion side of our overall platform. And, I think the feedback we're getting so far is really resonating. And, I think it's telling us as a local club that we need to do more, in terms of growing the game. And I will say the league has done an incredible job of, sharing a lot of, I think best practices of what teams do on a local level. And I think every one of us is, at the end of the day, a student of the game. I mean, we hear what other peers are doing in their markets, and, it's allowed us to really add on and complement some of the existing program that we have in a really impactful way from that standpoint. So I see that being a continued growth opportunity. I think the other piece from a league standpoint, and Kyle probably knows this much better than me, the impact fund of what the league does, the growth fund, the industry growth fund, I think helps us really, as local teams, even put more money and investment into growing the game, across the board. So I think that adds a lot to it. And, that's really been a very helpful program.
Yeah. And from what go ahead, Kyle.
On that, I'll just jump in and say, it's the 10th anniversary of that industry growth fund that came out of our last CBA. And the work that's been done when you look at the projects that clubs have built, so either new rink facilities and others, accessing that capital in order to be able to make the game more accessible in the communities, the Learn to Play program that we're doing across our 32 markets, now leading into really tens of thousands of people, mostly from communities that would not otherwise have access to participate in hockey, learn to love the game through this program, and continue on in a subsidized outreach through USA Hockey to continue playing and growing. And that's a participant, but that participant is a family when you really start to look at it, and how we're really trying to grow fan interest from the ground up, while we also use the megaphone of our rights holders and our own properties and platforms to push the message broadly. So I think the IGF has been a game changer, and again, I give a lot of credit to our executive, but certainly the Players Association, for realizing that we're all committed to growth together, and we've got to invest through the dollars that are coming in and put it in a place where it can be used efficiently. So I think there's been a lot of great stories, and more will come from IGF as it continues.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely expect a story in SBJ at some point this season on the 10th anniversary of the IGF. It's been such a great platform for the growth of the game in North America. I will turn it back over to Dan in just a second to let you guys know what else is coming up on SBJ Live. But Before I do that, guys, any final words? Anything else we haven't touched on that you would like to share?
I would say try to capture as many NHL hockey games that Alex Ovechkin is playing in this year and track his chase. It is going to be the most epic story. And Alex, you know what? I read a lot of things about what was the hardest record in all of sports to break. And even most recently, I went to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told me Gretzky's scoring record of 894 goals was the hardest record. Cy Young was right behind him. I think Cal Ripken was behind him, and then Lionel Messi. So I think this journey that Alex is going to take over the next couple of years hopefully will be, a great story across the entire league and something that, I know we're proud of in Washington, D.C.
All I'll add to that is, and we love Alex, we want you to watch there, but we also want you to tune in on Tuesday, October 10th on ESPN for triple header, NHL Face-Off, and then the following night on Turner for the kickoff of Warner's package as well with a doubleheader there. So great slate of games coming up, and it's going to be an amazing season. Vegas for the banner raise on opening night, and 2 games with Connor Bedard right off the top of the season in Pittsburgh and Boston, ESPN and Turner back-to-back. So really exciting season to start, and get ready, buckle in. It's going to be a fun ride.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And it's great to see such an engaged audience here. A lot of folks in the chat, really appreciate it. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or by email. And thanks so much to Kyle and Jim, two, superstars in the industry for giving us their time and insight.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you. I'll get everyone out of here on this real quick. We've got another great episode next week of SBJ Live. That's our NBA season preview. Joe Lemire is going to do that one, and it's going to have a tech focus, and we're calling it Managing Loads and Tracking Limbs, the tech innovations shaping the 2023 to 2024 NBA season. So that's next Wednesday, the 11th. Make sure you register for that as well. To the audience, you'll receive an email after this. There's a quick survey in there. We'd love your input on how you felt we did. And then also there's a promo code for you there to subscribe to All Access so that you can get all the Sports Business Journal content, including everything Alex does. So we'd love for you to at least consider that as well. Kyle and Jim, thank you so much for your time. We couldn't do it without you. Alex, thanks for moderating. Have a great day, everyone.